Hi everyone, this is Julia Strauss. I'm Rivers class of 2015, and today I'll be giving an explanation of how to use the TI-Nspire CX CAS calculator. This is the calculator that I used at Rivers when I was in high school, and I think it's really helpful, especially to have in calculus and higher level math and physics. It can solve equations for you, and it's great at graphing and all sorts of things. Just makes your life a lot easier. So it's definitely something you'll want to invest in, especially if you're pursuing calculus or more, heavy-duty maths as an upperclassman. So the first thing I wanted to explain is the Scratchpad. So if you turn on your computer, you should see a black screen, and on the left it says Scratchpad, on the right it says Documents. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Scratchpad and then A, which is Calculate. So this should take you to a white screen that says Scratchpad at the top. This is where you'll do your basic four-function calculating. Documents is really good for saving documents and histograms and all sorts of statistics things, which we'll see in a little bit. But just starting with the Scratchpad, this is great, like I said, if you're just doing something simple, like 4 times 7, and you can just push enter to see the results. It's also great if you want to simplify an answer. So say you had the numbers 194 divided by 64. So you definitely wouldn't want to do that by hand. And what the calculator does is it'll give you the simplified fraction as an answer, so this would be 97 over 32. But what you can also do is you can ask for a decimal answer. So if you push Control and then push enter, it'll give you the decimal, which is 3.03125. So this is great if you're finishing something on a test and you need that decimal answer. You don't have to do the long division by yourself. But it also gives you the simplified fraction if you're multiplying by hand, that sort of thing. So it's great to have both options. So if you're working on your calculator and you need to clear it for a test or something, what you can do is push Menu, and then 1, which is Actions, and 4, which is Clear A to Z. So one thing you can do on this calculator is set variables. So say you want x to equal 2 and y equals 3 in some equation. You can clear that here, that way that doesn't show up later when you are putting in x for an unknown value instead. So if you clear your variables, you push Menu 1, 4, and then Enter, and that'll clear those for you. And the calculator stores up to 99 functions and, 99 little mini math problems, so to speak. So if you want to erase those, you push Menu 1 and then 5 to clear your history. So that's also a great thing to know. Say you need to clear your calculator for a test, it's all right there. It's Menu 1, 4, Enter, and Menu 1, 5. Now, one other really important thing to note how to do on your calculator is to switch between radians and degrees. And if you haven't used radians yet, that's okay. You'll get to it next year or the year after. But radians is very important for math and sometimes a little bit for physics too. So if you go back to your home screen, you push the little button with the house on it, that'll take you back to that black home screen. And then you want to push button 5, which is Settings, and then 2, which is Document Settings. Now the one that we're focusing on is Angle, which is right here. And we want our angle either to be degrees or radians. Oops, sorry. Don't do that. So what I do is I push the right arrow key before I was down at angle. So to get to angle, you either push the tab or the down button. I'll use the tab. And then once we get there, now we can use the right arrow key to go from degrees, say, to radians. So I'm already in degrees, so to go to radians, I'll push the up button, and then I'll push on the trackpad, and this will put me in radians. Now, it's very important that before you finish and X out of this box, you make this your default, because otherwise, for some reason, it doesn't change your Scratchpad, and it's very easy to miss, so you want to make sure, and I'll show you how to check that in your Scratchpad in just a minute. So say you're in radians now. Now I'm going to use the down arrow to go all the way down to make default, and then you want to push the middle button on your trackpad, and this window should come up that says Apply, and you click OK. So now you're all set. And the way you can check that is if you go back into your Scratchpad, you can go back to Calculate. So I use the left arrow to go up to Calculate, and then I push Enter. If you hold your mouse over the battery here, it should tell you. So here it says Angle Radians, so we know that we're in radians. Now, if we want to switch to our graphs, right now we're in the Calculate section of Scratchpad. There's a whole graphing section too. So you can either click on it, or you can go back, or you can push this button right here. And this is a Scratchpad button, so this will take you right to the graph. It'll toggle back and forth between the two. Now, one really important thing to know with your Scratchpad is your window. So my window is very bad right now. So what you would want to do is push Menu, and then 4, which is Window, and 1, which is Window Settings. So I like to leave mine between -10 and 10 for both axes. So I'm using the tab to go between these two, and I leave my scale at auto. So then we'll go -10, and then 10. And then make sure you go all the way down to OK and press Enter. So that looks a little more normal. And I think this is especially good because you have your origin right at 0, and that way you can see a little bit of everything. But for different equations and different functions, you may want to see more of one axis or the other, or if you have a certain window that you're looking at. So that's a good way to look at it, is to do menu 4-1 for your window. And I'm just going to push escape to get out of this. Alright, so if you want to enter a function, the quickest way to do it, the quickest way to do it is to push Control and then G. And this brings up the little function input box. So let's say our function is y equals 2x. We can put in 2x and then press enter, and immediately it'll graph it for us. And you can do all sorts of things with this. You can drag it, you can label it, you can change the color. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do on this calculator. But let's say we also want to enter another function. We'll push Control G again, and say our second function is x plus 3. Now, one really interesting feature on this calculator is trace. So you can calculate the zeros and the y-intercepts, and you can calculate the intersections and the minimums and maximums by pushing menu 6, which is Analyze Graph, and then all of these options are here. And then you can also calculate the derivative and the integral of a single function when you get into upper level math. So these are great options, but if you're working in a small window and they're relatively basic functions, you're going to want trace, which is 5, and then 1, which is trace graph. So if you're tight on time and you definitely just need the min or the max, I would recommend using that. But if you're trying to explore the function and see, to learn more about it, then this is a great option. So it was menu 5-1 to trace. So with trace, if you go left and right, it'll go up and down on the function. And if you go up and down, it switches between the two graphs. So right now we're on the graph of, we're on x plus 3. And if we go down, this is 2x. So we can calculate the intercept. It'll automatically go over it, which is 3, 6. And we can also calculate the 0. So let's see. So the 0 here is 0, 0. And on this equation, the 0, or the y-intercept, it's not the 0, it's just the y-intercept, is 0, 3. So this is a really quick tool to be able to identify important parts of your graphs. And then to get rid of these graphs, you'll push menu 1, which is action, and 4, which is delete all, and then make sure you push enter for OK. Alright, so now the other part that I haven't really talked about yet is documents. So documents are great if you want to save something more long term, or if you're going to use it again, or if you need to make a list like an Excel spreadsheet. So we can start a new document by pushing 1 or clicking on this here, and I'm going to add a list in spreadsheet. So right when you open this up, this should look very familiar to you. Google has an option, I think it's called Sheets, and then there's obviously Excel. So this top row here is where you can name your different columns. This row is where you can manipulate your columns, and this is all for data entry. So let's say we're looking at an equation where the price is determined by the number of bags of popcorn sold. So let's call A popcorn, and we push the enter button, and let's call B price. Now let's say every bag of popcorn is $3, so we can say the price is 3 times A. So now every time we put something into A, it'll give us 3 times that for B. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I pushed enter after each one. So 1 gives us a price of $3. If you buy 2 bags, you pay $6, etc., etc. And just while you're in this data entry section down here, what you can do is use the tab button to go, you can use the arrows to go left and right, and you can use enter to go down. So now let's say we wanted to see what this looked like. So let's graph it. So what you want to do to open a new window, the fastest way is to push Control and then I. And then we can go down to 5, which is data and statistics. Alright, so what you have to do is click to add your variables. So let's make this bottom variable, which is our independent, popcorn sold, and let's make this variable, which is our dependent, the price. So we should have a very linear thing because our equation is y equals 3x. But just to make sure, you can put in a linear regression line or a line of best fit, and we can do that by pushing menu, and then 4, which is analyze, 6, which is regression, and 1, which is show linear. And it'll also give us the equation, y equals 3x. And you can move this around if it's blocking any of your data points. So you can get rid of this line of best fit by pushing menu, 4, which is analyze, and 1, which is hide linear. And then if you want to save your document, you would push menu, you push document, 1, which is file, and then 4, which is save. So you can start all sorts of different folders on here. I haven't created any on this calculator yet, but on my other calculator I have a whole statistics folder with my notes from each chapter. So if you're taking notes on how to create histogram plots or box plots or anything like that, it's really helpful to save your examples. But for here I'm not going to save this, so I'll just push cancel, And you can X out without saving if you push the X and then click No. So that's pretty much it. I think you'll really sort of get the hang of it. It took me a few days to get used to it 'cause it's a little bit different than an 84, but it was definitely worth the switch. It's a lot easier to use and it'll really help you in the long run. One other really cool feature that I haven't mentioned yet is back in Scratchpad you can have it solve an equation. So let's you go Menu and then 3, which is algebra, and 1, which is solve. So let's say we want to solve for x. So let's say we'll do a basic one here, like 6 equals 2 times x. And then you want to put a comma when you're all done, and then the variable you're solving for, which is x. And then we push enter. So it'll tell us x equals 3. So if you're given a quadratic or any more complicated expression, or equation, and you don't have time to solve it on your own, your calculator will do it for you. So if we go back home, there's just one more thing I wanted to talk about, which is charging your calculator. I found that it charges best when the screen is turned on instead of off. So if you charge it plugged in just like this, you're more likely to have a full charge. And that's pretty much it. I hope that was helpful.